Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me here on Let's Talk. And today, my guest is none other than Gucci Westman. And she does not need much introduction, but just for the fun of it, for those who doesn't know her, she's a global brand artistic director for Revlon and as well as Lancôme in the passing years. And now she's a CEO of her own brand, Gucci Westman Atelier. And today we're going to talk all about that. And with the climate that's changing so much right now, where beauty brands are now in the face of the news every day about inclusion, we're going to talk about how beauty will shape and make this world a little better place. Hello, Gucci. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm a big fan of yours. You have quite the background, and you're not. I admire you so much for what you do in terms of your photography, but also these interesting conversations that you're having with different people and bringing awareness to various subjects and areas that are interesting. So.
And we desperately need it. We desperately need it. How time have changed from the first day of quarantine to now, that I feel like this is everything that needed to happen in our industry, in every industry, is making us really reevaluate who we are and what we can continue to do to contribute.
I 100% agree with you. Of course, it's really, really devastating that a lot of people had to, kind of be hurt and compromised and to come to this place. But this cannot be the way we live anymore. We cannot have inequality. We cannot live that way. We are all humans. We are all equal. We all deserve the same rights. We deserve, it's across the board. It goes from, I feel like every sector is being, kind of I guess, approached and needs to show up and become more accountable.
And I think, especially in our fashion and beauty world, we live in a bubble where we really do live in a bubble. We're protected by our own peers and even bad behavior. So over the years, we allow the photographers to behave a certain way. We allow the stylists to behave a certain way to the models. And models didn't say anything because they thought that's the only way they can get work. And the last 5-6 years, I couldn't be more proud of all the call-outs that have happened. I couldn't be more proud of the Me Too movement that have knocked down some of the photographers were invincible, but being human is the most important. That changes the schematics of our business.
Yeah, and just treating people with respect and not abusing your power, and just being, I guess, transparent and fair when you're working with somebody and knowing what everybody's bringing to the table. And it's shocking how this all kind of unraveled. And it's I think it's like started off with the Me Too, and then it's trickled down to how do we live, how do we view the human race.
Well, let's talk about it from the perspective of your background, that being a creative director, brand director for such big brands like Lancôme and Revlon. While you were in those positions, how much of your personal push for diversity, inclusion was actually heard during that process? Because you and I both know big companies now are being called out by whether or not they stood by that philosophy before, or they're just doing it now for a catch-up time.
I mean, I think that a lot of brands try to listen. It's not easy, for sure. It's not easy, and we are personally as a brand now really, we are so committed to doing the right thing, and inclusivity is our top priority, and it's always been part of our entire ethos. But it's just we are we have very few amount of products, so but we absolutely are listening to our community. We want to feel that everyone is heard, and that we are participating and we're collaborating. And I think that the brands that I worked with in the past, there's always been I think a significant push for being inclusive, and I have to say I feel lucky enough to have worked with brands that really care. And for Revlon, for them, they view the American woman as an icon. You know,
Absolutely.
it's the American woman, which is any color, any race. It doesn't, you know, I'm half Swedish. My grandparents are Irish. It doesn't really, you know, we all make up this country that we live in that's given us so much opportunity by being so diverse and eclectic, but we all deserve to feel that we can be treated the same and that we can feel safe. And you know, it's shocking to me that we still experience what we've been seeing in the news the past few weeks. It's
Absolutely. But you know, a lot of it I know that is in economics, right? And in a smaller brand like your Atelier brand, as you're building and growing, you can't have as many verticals and as many product that covers complete spectrums of 128 shades and so forth. And I know I experienced this working with other makeup artists because my background's in advertising and marketing. And I've worked with other makeup artists building, designing their own brand. And they do come to that point of having these discussions with people who are funding the brand. We don't want to give you X amount of dollars, therefore you cannot have X amount of SKUs, right? And therefore things start getting cut. And I personally seen it. What gets cut is how many shades of foundation there are. And what gets cut are the darker shades of my shades and the shades on a different spectrum. And I said nothing because I know I for years I've been working in this industry as well. And this is a reflection I'm learning as well to speak up about that because I've seen it. I've seen people go on to QVCs and HSNs selling their product, making the money. But I don't see the shades of color that are representing a huge demographic that actually watches that show. And that's I guess that's a discussion I'm loving having with you because you're such a young company, 2 years old, but your name is so respected. And for guys that are listening out there, one of the reasons I want to talk to Gucci is that not because she's Gucci, the name Gucci, but the fact is I have admired your work so much and the work that you do. It's timeless. And you know my work. I don't really push the boundaries to try to be the edgy photographer. I definitely love timeless and I love beauty. But what you have is your reputation in the industry that's always kind and always you're a mom with 3 kids. And there's something about that I think is really important because it changes people, you know, and you're nurturing. And that's one of the most important reasons I want people to know that having you on the show, having you here with me, having this dialogue, it's truly about reflection of who you are as a person.
Thank you.
Then the CEO comes with it, right? Then the CEO and the business comes with it. And for people to really understand, you're in a position as a CEO of your company, but you still have to answer to the people who are funding it and the people who's wanting to put it on the shelf for you, right? But you can give us some example of that if you have any.
So first off, my husband and I are funding our brand. Well, we funded it up until, you know, very recently and, you know, just the 2 of us. And we have, I think the beauty of when you are so little, you don't really have to conform as much to rules and regulations, and we should do it that way. And we have to launch with that amount of SKUs, you know, it's more kind of like this feels right for us. We want to start small and we want to grow based on feedback from, you know, our customers, our community, and we want to see what it is that they want and need. And that's how we've kind of, you know, worked is that we want to engage, and that's how, you know, and obviously me as a makeup artist, I feel that there are, you know, certain things you absolutely need in a range to complete it. And we're not complete yet. We're growing, but we didn't want to ever be, you know, like a battleship of product. Because I find that too many decisions can make you unhappy and it can be overwhelming. And for me personally, I don't feel like we need that many like choices. Like I don't need 25 mascaras to choose from. You know, I just don't feel that there's too much stuff in the world. We don't need all that stuff. We need the stuff that we use. In my opinion, we need it to work, and we deserve to know that it is safe and it's going to perform well. I don't want to ever, you know, nothing that we are associated with will ever hurt anybody's skin. It's always going to nurture and take care of your skin and hopefully improve your skin. You know, so we include a lot of active, you know, skincare ingredients in our products that are included at functioning levels instead of marketing levels, which is a big point of difference for our brand, you know, because when we started this venture, our lab told us that actually, it's very expensive to include these ingredients at functioning levels, and people usually put a drop in and then they can say they included it. And I was like, what? Sounds like the worst idea possible to me. I have rosacea, so I want something that's going to improve my skin. If I have to wear makeup, I want it to be doing something better. But it has to 100% perform. As a makeup artist, I'm familiar with, the most incredible textures and formulas, and it has to meet my standards as a makeup artist, as a woman, as a makeup artist, and I have to know that my kids and my family and my friends, anyone is going to feel safe wearing our product and really appreciate the fact that we put so much into the quality of the ingredients and sourcing alternative ingredients to some of these, known carcinogens and known endocrine disruptors. We want to do better. And I feel like we are at this moment in time where people are becoming more educated, and luxury is education, knowing what you're using, knowing what brand speaks to you. And if, clean is a word that's thrown out quite sort of all over the place now. But I think if you do some research and you look into what that brand stands for in terms of philosophy, like how clean is clean? I mean, we work with a green chemist who's on our board, and she does all of our ingredient listings and our blacklist that's constantly evolving as we gain new information. We're on our own website, but we're also with really clean platforms like Goop and like Credo and Shen Beauty. Across the board, we really focus on this new idea of luxury performing products, that they should be clean. This is just for me, this is like the new normal. This should be the new normal.
It should have always been to begin with, right?
Well, I think, to be quite honest, maybe we just weren't informed. We just didn't know. Like, when our parents, well, certainly when I was younger, my parents didn't know that they should have put sunscreen on me. They didn't know that. They didn't know the damage that the UV rays could cause. And I don't think it's just, this is how it started, and this is how we've chugged along because nobody's asked questions. Of course, recently, in the most recent years, yes, but it started off in the food industry when we discovered that, we shouldn't really be eating pesticides and hormone injected food and GMO foods, so it's kind of like, oh my gosh, it's all over. We just we owe it to ourselves to educate ourselves and to do some due diligence and research. And
aside from the science aspect of it, there's a social impact right now on decision that you make as a brand, right? Any brand that's out there, whether it's food brand, clothing brand, and I've spoken to fashion designers, they're really trying to be more resourceful for the material. And for beauty brands, as we know, during the pandemic, everybody gravitated onto beauty because that's what makes them feel beautiful and good. And skincare has exploded on internet. I think we just see everybody doing different skincare. But what I love about it now that we're changing that conversation from the skin to what you actually visualize and see. Because we always say beauty is skin deep. But now it's no longer just skin deep. It's what's in front of you. It's the color of the skin that you can no longer not recognize and not talk about, right? So with that being in the atmosphere that we are in, and as an Asian person grew up in America, have faced many different type of racisms and marginalizations and xenophobia from people, especially during this pandemic, I find this time so rewarding.
So sad.
It is sad, but I find this time so rewarding, and it's more rewarding even so when I speak to a white Caucasian like you, are aware of these things that are happening. It makes me a little bit happier to know that the lessons are out there, and good people are out there taking on that lesson and starting to reflect that. And I guess my question for you is, with all this stuff that's happening, how do you begin to go back and look at your ethos and say, what would we do to, I don't want to say the word conform, it's not conform, it's actually, how do we adjust and really listen to the customers? Like you were saying earlier, it's a smaller company, you don't want hundreds of SKUs, but now we know that inclusion is so important. How do you make sure the Asian community, the Black community, the darker Indian community, the Muslim communities will be able to enjoy the luxury of Westman Atelier?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are adding, you know, additional shades and just making sure that our brand is as well rounded as it possibly can be. So it absolutely can speak to every skin tone, every skin color. And that, as I said, you know, earlier, that was something that was always part of our, you know, calendar. That was always happening. It was always in the works. But, you know, we're a tiny brand, and we were trying to do it, you know, with the cadence. And we of course, we recognized that we weren't quick enough in terms of how, you know, fast we needed to be. So, you know, a certain amount of SKUs. And I think that, you know, also supporting um, various philanthropic associations that we're working on those initiatives, and really just taking the time to think about what can we actually do to learn more about how we can support the community. You know,
I know one thing I will say, sorry to interrupt, but one thing I will say is I don't want to forget is that even though you said that you're a small company, just so you know, if you don't know already, you are a giant in this industry. Your presence is a giant in this industry, and don't undersell yourself the power that you have. And I know for a fact that when you take that leadership to make that SKU inclusive, or even just making a stand who you support, is so loud and heard from all the people who respect you because you are in that position. Doesn't matter you're a multi-billion-dollar company or you're Atelier, because I actually think that your voice is more important than the Estee Lauder of the world right now, because you are the foundation. No pun intended, guys. You are the foundation to build what's right. Because for me, what's going to happen when I see all this business that start out right, who have the right theo and has the right philosophy and have the right caring and kindness, eventually does get bought out by a company like Estee Lauder, who definitely needs good company like yours under their umbrella, because they're in trouble. You know, they are in trouble with their DNA, what they're doing. And that's the struggle that I have and love-hate relationship with this industry. When do we step up to say, this is the right voice? When do we step up, not worry about losing a magazine that will hire me again by saying these things or stand up for these things? Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think it really is something, it's a personal journey that everybody needs to explore what feels right for them. And we've really valued transparency at Westman Atelier, and we recognize, you know, that we're not perfect, and we are absolutely 100% being nimble to any type of feedback, as nimble as we can. I mean, if somebody says, oh, please, can you make a pink lipstick that I can have tomorrow? It takes a longer time to formulate, you know, because not only do we do it, you know, clean, but also everything's custom. But also, you know, when we launched our brand, it's interesting because there's so much complexity now. If you compare now to when, for example, my husband launched Rag and Bone, you know, that however many years that was ago, it was, I guess, 16 years ago. You know, then they only had to focus on the product, right? And now there's so many complexities. There's not only you know, the products, but you have to focus on your kind of your e-commerce, your social engagement, there's so much to think about now. And when we launched, we were so hyper focused on the ingredients being as clean and as beautiful as we could possibly find. And you know, we launched with Barney's 2018. And David and I, my husband, we went to show them kind of like what we were thinking, and we said we want to do our brand refillable, and they said, oh, that's not our customer, that's not going to work. And I was like, you know, so it's tricky, because then, you know, as a self-funded brand, what are we supposed to do? We couldn't really afford to launch when they're telling us it's not going to work. So, of course, now we are 100% so committed to becoming refillable. And our first products that will be refillable will be the compacts. So that will be
less
first.
waste for the environment, right? This is what we need. We need, product that creates more
That you
less
can
waste.
repurpose and reuse, and absolutely. So that's, we have several things that are top priority for us now, and it all is kind of, you know, along the lines of being transparent and being as good as you can be and do as well as you can do. And that's really what we're focusing on now. And we are small, which is, we're lucky in terms of, we make the decisions pretty much.
Absolutely. And you get to shape. It's such an amazing time right now. I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's such an amazing time right now to make whatever we call a pivot and next steps. And we're all doing that. I myself is going through that same process about my own work, about my photography. We know I've been shooting for 17 years. And every 5 years, I know nobody knows, but they've been around
You look so young.
Thank you. I went through every 5 years or so, you go through and reevaluate your work. You look at it and go, is this representation of what I want to put out there, right? Mm-hmm. With the pivotal movement of Me Too, I've been shooting for a brand called Guess that everybody knows for over 10 years. And the type of imagery I was putting out there was salacious, it was sexy, it was uber to the point of just borderline, you decide what that line is. But I had to evaluate, is this the type of imagery I want to continue to promote? And with the shift of Me Too, being the only male photographer today stood up for a woman that was violated by someone.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so admirable.
But here's the thing, reason I mentioned that is because I'll tell you now on record, only people who supported me did it silently and quietly. The one who did not support me was loudly and screaming at me saying I was dumb to make that decision because I now lost a client and they no longer need to cast with me because I no longer have the gate to that brand. This is the transparency, the realness of this industry that I, again, had to reevaluate. What kind of imagery do you want to put out there? And one of the main reasons to do this talk show is being this transparent with people, to know that the movement that's happening today did not just explode. It's been in a pressure cooker for the last decades and decades and decades. And for the first time, and for the first time, as a minority in the fashion industry, as well as in the world, I feel like there's an opportunity for a voice to be heard. I can use this platform to talk.
I like what you said, that you have an opportunity to kind of shape what happens.
That's right.
We have a really, really robust team of great thinkers. We're so blessed to have this incredible team, and they're super bright and smart, and together we are, kind of, I guess our perspectives, all kind of go together, and we brainstorm and we come up with, what we see as kind of solutions and troubleshooting and things like that. And it's really, you can't really do it on your own. You need a team,
Absolutely.
To support. And it's so awesome to, like you said, though, to be to have an opportunity to shape something that can make an impact, a positive impact. And I try to, just worry about that our products are as good as they can be, that we are thinking about as many things as we can, including, sustainability, inclusivity, that we are facing all of these sticky areas and we're not trying to hide anything,
it's interesting. I think our audience needs to know this, and it's so profound of a timing situation. When I had reached out to you to speak about 3 weeks ago, actually, and at that time, your team had got on the phone with me and asked me, well, what do you want to talk to her about? She's been doing skincare, she's been doing makeup tutorial. And I said, actually, I don't want to talk anything about that. She's like, what do you mean? I go, I don't want to know about which lipstick is going to be the next lipstick, because she's going to do that on Vogue cover already. I want to know what Gucci Westman stands for, what's the brand behind it, and how is the brand going to grow? Because I felt, and I said this honestly at that time to your team, I said, I felt like there's an opportunity lost. Her name itself is so powerful. The brand and the name should be together as one, because what she says, not only that the fan like us will follow, but you are a leader in your industry with amazing hair and makeup people aspire to be you, and also the ones work side by side with you. So when you make that next step as a brand, not just as Gucci Westman, as a person, but as a brand's atelier, they will hear you and they will listen and they will champion with you. And I think that's when I feel like opportunity could be lost if I didn't have an opportunity to at least say that to you and say that to your brand.
No, that's super nice, and we welcome. I just think that we are in an interesting time because people are really ready to pounce at the moment. Like as we see, there's so much anger. Like literally, the world is on fire. There's so many people are ready to be mad and feel like they're hard done by and things like that. But at the same time, I guess it's over this period of many years where people haven't felt like they've been heard, and it's frustrating, and we want to create a really reciprocated platform where we are in this together and we are doing the best we can do and realize we're not perfect again, and we are we're responding in our way, our humble way. We're trying to do the best we can do, and I really hope that people are going to be kind.
Well, absolutely. And I think when you can bridge exclusivity, which is the brand that's elevated, to inclusivity, it becomes a synonym. That's the magic world I want to live in, right? As you know, in fashion, you've been in this industry for a long time as well, that the climb is not easy. And like Miley Cyrus' song is about the journey, but you know what? That journey is not easy.
No, it's really not easy, and there's so many layers to working in the fashion industry that people are unaware of. It's hard to articulate, but it's kind of like when you're a freelance makeup artist, a freelance photographer, of course, it's so incredible, and we get to go to these amazing places. Back in the day when we used to travel, there's so many extraordinary aspects to the fashion world, but there's also like a pretty kind of cutthroat aspect that that is tough to deal with. When you're a woman and you're working, you're traveling constantly, and you don't really have the kind of schedule where you can meet a lot of people, like if you're single, or for example, you never know, you don't have jobs guaranteed unless you have a contract.
Right.
So that's something that I found always was a little bit challenging, when you're not sure if you're going to keep doing that job, or there's no explanation. If you don't get the job again, it's just like, oh, okay, I'm just supposed to just be fine with that and not take it personally, So there's so many things that you have to build a tougher skin around in the fashion industry.
But what's lovely now is that we no longer have to take and be tolerant with something. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, is what I love mostly with the change in the industry. On Let's Talk, we dedicated entire week to women photographers I completely respect and follow. And I know when I reach out to them, it's like, can you come and talk with me? They're like, what? You're a photographer? You want to talk to me? Why? I go, because your time is due. It's been way too long. And I don't care, it's Me Too movement. I don't care, it's like Me 5 movement, whatever movement it is that now allow women photographers to celebrate. Jump up and scream on the top of the mountain and shoot whatever you can and celebrate it. Because you know why I do that? People ask me, why would you do that? I go, because there will be a day. There will be a day that I get to do the same and celebrate when magazines and publications says, we will champion for the Asian communities as well. We'll champion the Black community as well. And that's why for Black Lives Matters to me, right? Black Lives Matters to me as an individual, because I know that I am champion for what's right. And one day, I hope for the reciprocation, and not just in the worldly sense, but in our industry sense. The fact that we know we put a first color woman in charge of Harper's Bazaar. How crazy and amazing that is, but how long did it take? It boggles me. It boggles me. And when I heard my friend Aya Kanai, who is the Mary Claire editor-in-chief now, she's a Japanese woman who got that position. celebrate it because that is amazing. Edward being a black man running Vogue in UK, that these guys might not know me on a daily basis, but I admire them and watch their career this entire time. And when I see that, it's like watching you. The steps they're taking is actually paving the road for the possibility of this gay Asian guy who everybody said you're never going to make it as a photographer in Los Angeles is making it his own way because people like them and people like you in the industry that we respect so much is taking the right step forward for all of us. And that's what's important to me.
Oh, that's so beautifully put, Yu Tsai. That's really amazing. But I think sometimes, I felt this way when I was in makeup school in Paris, and I remember the teacher in our class said one day, and it was so strange, but it actually was, I think, pivotal for me as a comment. But she said, I don't want to let you guys down, but this industry is for homosexual men, and they are the ones who are going to succeed as makeup artists. And I was like,
wow.
I was like, that is a really weird comment to make to a classroom of 80 students that come from all over the world. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to use that and make that as a little fire in my belly. And I just always went back to that day. I remember what she was wearing. I remember the weather. I remember how it smelled in the room because it was such a powerful moment of adversity that I used to fuel me, and I just thought, obviously I'm never going to say anything like, oh, see, but I do feel like that was kind of, it helped be a little bit of a catalyst in my career, and I'm sure you've had similar moments when you mentioned that people say you're never going to make it in Hollywood. I mean, people told me because I moved from LA, I had worked on a couple of movies when I lived in LA. I did Being John Malkovich, and then I did Buffalo 66. And I remember I was 29, and I was like, I can't just work only with actresses. I need to also get my rocks off creatively.
Right.
So I have to, and I was like, I have to just try this fashion thing. I have to move to New York. I have to try it. And if it doesn't work, at least I tried it. I didn't want to regret not trying. And so I moved, but I heard from, some people like, oh, that's really hard. Usually it's like only English makeup artists, from Britain or, and I don't know. And I was like, I have to give it a shot.
And at that time, working with celebrities was a makeup artist. You weren't an artist. You were just somebody there to touch up. It wasn't respected as we respect now, And I remember doing that time. I was doing TV commercial directing, and I hate to say this, I'll admit it. I couldn't remember one makeup artist's name that did my makeup for my TV commercials back then because they were not admired and were not loved and treasured as they do now because the artistry they bring now. Time had really evolved and changed that perception. But yes, there was a stigma of anybody who started in Los Angeles or anybody who worked on a movie set means, oh, you're a TV movie makeup artist. You only know how to do that thing and you're not going to make it in New York. And I know that part of the story with you.
Yeah.
And that's why I understand.
And it also goes back to the inclusivity thing, It's kind of like when people used to say to me after I lived in New York for 15 years, and sometimes people would say, oh, you live in LA, right? Like as it was condescending.
And still think it's negative. People say that to me.
I would love to live in LA right now. Come on. I was born in LA. I love LA. I love the wellness. I love the weather. I have amazing friends. I love everything about LA. And the Mexican food, oh, come on. So I think that this is back to this whole conversation. There is a lot of silver linings, and this did need to happen. It's sad it happened how it had to happen, this rude awakening, but police officers can't behave that way, and nobody should be mistreated for their skin color, and that's just devastating. And I don't even know how to speak about that because I'm just like in shock, you know,
Absolutely.
still. And I feel like the good thing is that it does feel like maybe there will be some reform from all
accountability,
of this,
right? I think finally in every industry, doesn't matter food, doesn't matter fashion and different area of the industry.
Makeup.
We are being called out. We are now being called out for, and the decision that you want to make is on you. So we've been watching on Instagram. I'm sure you see a lot of makeup as abandoning certain brands that don't align with their own philosophy, and that's really powerful and all. But I want to ask you this, because I go through a struggle with this. Knowing company that's big like Estee Lauder, who owns Tom Ford, who has a big share of Aveda and Clinique, and brands that I particularly did not know that they have money invested in and they're part ownership of, who are not celebrating inclusivity the way I believed in, and also donating to political parties that I personally do not align with. And this month affected me truly is when I found out Trump, just 3 days ago, trying to take away the rights of gay couples be able to adopt. But the people who are giving him money to be able to support him are in our beauty industry, like MAC and Estee Lauder. What do we do as consumers, and what do we do as makeup artists in this industry when this situation happens?
So I can't really talk about that because then I'll get really upset.
Well, I'm already upset.
You know, to me that's like a whole other conversation, because that's like gets me all riled up. But I'm just hoping that all of this, I hope that this is gonna, you know, really push people to vote and know that their voices absolutely have to be heard. If we're gonna make a difference, we need to get out there and we need to fight for a difference. And that, you know, that we might have some obstacles when it comes to the actual voting process, but we have to make a way, and we all have to join forces and make it happen. And that's all I can pray for and hope for, is that we get it done.
Well, that's a good prayer. That's a prayer we all seem to be aligned.
Yeah, right.
And we're seeing the solidarity out there, seeing the protests out there, seeing the peaceful, real protests out there. We count the heads of numbers out there. If every single one of those people have the same courage to stand in line on the voting day, because it will be just as long of a line as a protesting line. Be there.
Who knows if we're allowed to go out and vote? That's like.
Mail-in voting is actually good for us, just so you know. Most people will do mail-in voting before they will actually stand in line to vote. So I do encourage that.
Yeah. I just hope everybody takes this opportunity again to know that their voices are so important, and we all need to be heard. You know, everybody's voice matters.
And I love you saying that, and that's just what a great way to end our conversations at, because I want you to hear your own voice. And one of the big reasons for this talk is that I wanted you to hear how powerful you can be in this industry, because I follow every single one of your life for the last 3 weeks, and I too know how to have beautiful skin if I want it, or which lipstick to wear if I want to go at night. But what's most important to me is that you have such amazing power and position to grow and build your company from the inside out, and really be able to not look at people just shades of color, but inclusion and culture and substance. So I love you for that, and that's why I wanted to start this conversation with you.
Oh, thank you so much, and I admire culture so much. That's a huge source of inspiration for me, and I'm actually really missing traveling at the moment. You know, we work with labs in Asia, you know, in Japan and Korea and Europe, and you know, we're hoping to get back there soon.
Well, I also miss your beautiful work that I could get graced cover of the magazines, and inspiring artists who started in Los Angeles can climb as high as your career is going, and it just keeps on going. So I hope one day we actually get to work together on set.
I know, that would be amazing. I would love that so much.
It would be an honor to work with you. But thank you so much for your candidness today, and what a refreshing conversation to be had, and so overdue. And it's funny enough that I know you for many years, and there's never been an opportunity that we can have a connection, and this is a way to do it. I celebrate it as well.
It's so cool. I think it's such an awesome, like, oh wow, you can kind of connect with people that you want to talk to, which is like the best of both worlds. We're so lucky to have this,
absolutely,
this platform.
And next time somebody asks Gucci Westman, what is the beauty routine? Well, tell them it starts from the inside and look at the outside, because the color of the skin, it is right in front of your face, and face it, because it's not a challenge. It should not be a debate. It should just be. And that's why I love this conversation we have today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
I'll see you again soon.
Thank you so much.
I admire this woman so much. I've watched her career for so long. Gucci Westman has an amazing integrity. And the work that she's been doing, I follow her. Every kid that she had changed her philosophy, how to care about the product she creates and how to make it clean and healthy. And I celebrate the fact that she is now, and has always been, inclusion in mind and color of the skin and applications of those products that's healthy for people with color and people with all shades of color. And that's so important to me. And to have a conversation with her today is because I really absolutely admire her as a makeup artist. And after today's talk, I admire her even more as a human being. So until next time, you guys, thank you for joining me again.